Do you have something for closed? Okay. Good to go. Okay. So back to the question at hand then. And the question is, what would the public open house look like? I think that there seems to be consensus that we want to have a public in-person open house. And obviously, Lori knows all about the COVID protocols in recreation-owned and district-owned recreation facilities. So my assumption is that that would be probably at the banquet hall, and yeah, okay. There was one other thing. Somebody, one of the counselors brought up. Go ahead, Lori.
I think about putting the poster boards in the various facilities leading up to the open house.
Yes, and the surveys and all of that. Yeah. Can you remind us of is the indoor 50 people? Indoor attendance?
So it depends. You can have under 50 people and you do not have to check for vaccine cards, and you can have a spread out event in a large space. If you go over 50, it has to be seated. You can't wander around. It's a seated event, and proof of vaccine cards are required.
So, yeah, but yeah, we'd want to be able to have people to walk around. So it'd have to be under 50 people then.
I think what we might aim to have is an event for up to 50 people, and maybe we stagger it. So we have, I don't know, from 4 to 5, and then maybe a 6 to 7 or something to keep the numbers down, and have 2 different opportunities on the same evening, if that seems reasonable to council.
Does that seem reasonable to council? Yeah. Councillor Traynor and Councillor Patton?
Yeah, that works for me. Sorry.
Hello, Lake. Okay, so does that give you the direction you need then? Oh, good. Good, thank you. And then, so now on to the third question, and this was part of the staff report, is the childcare spaces grant, and how, you know, the timing might or might not work with that. And that's a question that Lori needs direction on as well, so that she can prepare the document if necessary. So thoughts, council? Councillor Carlson.
Just wondering how many times this has come out, and is it seem to be coming out annually or every 6 months?
Definitely this is at least the second, maybe the third intake. So it has been slowly rolling out on an annual basis.
Okay, thank you. I think we're going to see a lot more of it, but that's just an assumption because you never know in politics. So I don't think we're in a rush. I think it's better to have a plan before we try to add a new plan.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's rushed, and it's kind of before we're going to have that community engagement process finished, and that, you know, that kind of again is negates the whole premise of that. Other thoughts, council? Councillor Barkwell.
I agree.
Oh, easy peasy. Okay. So we will, maybe I could just get a show of hands or nods of heads. We're good. Councillor Van Alphen's good. Councillor Traynor.
I'm good.
And Councillor Patton.
I'm good.
Okay, so we're all good on that one. Yeah, I think that was just announced, you know, formally or officially at UBCM. So, and I think that was the third intake. So I would think that, you know, following what they've said they will do, that we'll see more of those. So, okay. So that's good for you for this one. And now I will let you go on and introduce the healthcare portion of this.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to the consultants from the, we're going a little bit late, so hopefully we can stay a little bit longer past the 11:30 time slot. So thank you for your patience, the Health Center consultant. So I'm going to pass it over to Gus Spanos with ThinkSpace to lead us through the presentation on the Primary Healthcare Center project. Thank you.
Oh, I was muted. Thank you for that, Lori. Let me just share my screen. Share. Okay, that one there. Okay, and oh yeah, share. Okay, here we go. Sorry. A little bit of summer for as we go into winter. So yeah, hopefully didn't make too many people jealous there. So thank you everyone for patience, and just like to give you an update as to our progress for the Summerland Health Center. And I think we've made introductions before. So my name is Gus Spanos with ThinkSpace Architecture. There's Monica Morgan, who will be our feasibility and partnership and business case expert. Cameron Ash is our design architect, and Todd Dust is our partner in charge here. So those will be the 4 participants from our team presenting today. So just as you see on the agenda here, we've got a site selection update with some subheadings on some of the sites that we're looking at. The refinement, I know Glenn mentioned earlier, more of a refinement to the functional program where we adjusted the net areas of the program. Todd will be able to speak to that. And Monica and I will talk about potential partnerships with third parties on how we could procure this type of project. And the business case and the operating model, which we've discussed at a fairly high level with the steering committee last week, and our next steps. So as we go along, site selection, and I'll leave it with Cameron. He and Alana have done a lot of work from our Kelowna office on trying to narrow down, let's say, independent, depending on how the rec center team develops their portion of the project. We're looking at a site, if it does come to pass that the health center and rec center cannot be co-located. So that was our intent right now. So I'll pass it over to Cameron.
Thanks. So as we mentioned in our last meeting to council, we heard fairly strong requirements from the steering committee that they felt that the viability of a health center largely hinged on it being in the downtown core. And so the area shown in red is that downtown core. It's kind of loosely based on my own and our office's interpretation of what that core would be, but the extents there are shown. We have been working over the past few months to try to find a site that would be conducive, not only in size, but in, I guess, in its current use, and whether or not it could be repurposed, that site could be repurposed for the intent of a healthcare center. We've exhausted that. We do have one site that in that area, red area, that we continue to look at, but the rest of the sites have unfortunately not borne any fruit. So we are now pushing that downtown core to the area in blue. And we are looking at sites in that area now. Next slide, please. Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yep. So this is just a list of all the sites, some of the sites that we've looked at and some of the reasons why they've been fruitful. The areas in green are areas, well, actually, maybe I'll just step back for 1 second. When we're looking at various sites and determining their viability, we're really essentially looking at three factors: whether or not there's existing space that's available, and that's obviously the go-to model that we're looking for, or option, I should say. In which case it requires very little money to get that center up and running. We've looked at whether or not the building could be renovated. So we're looking for age of the building and to determine whether or not the owner would be interested, potentially interested in, redeveloping their property, or lastly, looking at an empty site that could be developed for the first time. So those areas in green here, unfortunately, they did not bear any fruit for either reasons that the building situated on it is too new, or there's not enough leasable space to make it viable, or there is just there's no from our perspective any kind of rationale for an owner wanting to create a healthcare sector on their site. In orange there, we've looked at a couple of sites which, for reasons of recent purchases of the site and financial, what they went for when they were sold, we've kind of identified those as not being viable. There was, for example, the RCMP station with at a sale price recently that doesn't make it viable for us to be involved with them. And unfortunately, that site is a little too small to co-locate our healthcare center with the planned residential development that's on that one. So the packing house there as well. There's a number of issues with that site. One being the owner is actually not interested. We found out recently that the owner is not interested in selling for that one. There's some that are blue. One of them being the next slide, the new residential building on Kelly Avenue. We followed up with the developer on that site, and we actually go to the next slide there. So that's 1208 Kelly Avenue. It's in the bottom left-hand corner. And we did follow up with the developer, and their site is too small, which the next slide is going to identify as well. We were also looking with great hopes at the light blue at the top left-hand corner. It's 1001 Jubilee Road. That's a Shoppers Drug Mart, and we were kind of hoping to co-locate our healthcare center as an addition onto that existing building. Unfortunately, the owner did not feel that was very desirable for them. They're quite happy with the building that they have, and looking at its legacy, passing it down through the generations. So that one was not viable or open for us. The last one that we were looking at is right beside 9600 Brown Street. There's the badminton hall at 9450 Prairie Valley Road. We were hoping to be able to develop both of those lots together, and we had suggested that the badminton club could possibly be picked up on and offset within the new recreation center, but that did not bear fruit. So next slide. So just the existing space there, this is Kelly Avenue. And just to reiterate what I've already said there, the space is just too small. So we've got 232 square meters, but we're looking for 694 square meters. So quite a bit of difference in terms of what they are able to provide and what we're looking for. Next slide, please. And so these are the next three properties that we're looking at. We are continuing to look at 9600 Brown Street. That's municipally owned property. It's an empty parking lot right now. And we are continuing to look at that one as a backup plan if all else fails. But the other two here, the one on the top left, Dixon Avenue, 13609 Dixon Avenue, and 12815 Atkinson Road, both look promising at this time, but we are very early. They are outside that downtown core that we were originally looking at. But they both look promising at this point. Next slide. So one of those that I just mentioned there at 12815 Atkinson Road. This is the Interior Health Extended Care site. And there's enough room for us to locate our healthcare center on there. We actually met with the steering committee and I was expecting them to voice opposition to this option. But we actually heard back from them. They're actually, they were keen on this as being an option. Even though it's not close to the downtown core, they did like the fact that a lot of their patients are already using facilities within this area on this site. And there are other pros about it as well, as they have an existing lab and x-ray services within that building, which could help the healthcare center, expedite and just ease for patients, make it easier for patients to access both within one campus. The site is adequately sized to be a main floor only option for the healthcare center. And that's really like in the top right hand corner. I'm kind of going to assess 3 of these sites. And when I do mention that single story, what I'm really saying in that is with the single story option, not only is it easier for patients to access and flow through that space, but it's also the most efficient unit way of designing it, because then we won't have to provide things such as an elevator and at least 2 stairs when we do multi-story. So it is the cheapest option. The site is currently zoned institutional, but to remain as such, it might require rezoning, but that would be a discussion for later on. And really the only downside to it is that it is the topography on the north side of the existing building. So if you're looking at in the center there, that's the building that's most to the north. We're kind of thinking right in front of there. The topography does slope down, so we would be looking at a 2-story building, of which we would only need 1 story. So that would be a discussion that we are continuing to have with Interior Health. We're just looking to be put in touch with the right people to continue that conversation. But this one looks very promising. Next. Another site that we have identified is on Dixon Avenue. So this one is just to the outside of that downtown core. It's along, Dixon is a residential street, and then currently on this site, there's a single story seniors housing, and it's very low density. And it is possible in this scenario to have a single story healthcare center, which is good, but we would need to rezone and into potentially a mixed use, whereby the first floor would be a healthcare center, and then the following stories above could be residential. It's just going through here. Sorry. Yeah, the downside for this one not only is rezoning and perhaps public opinion, at least those neighboring properties and how they might feel about a greater density building, but also it's currently occupied. So we would need to, in our plan, we're going to have to identify what we would do with those existing tenants. But this one actually of all, and I'll touch on the last one in a second, but of the 3 options, this is, I think, the one that we're looking with most eagerness on. The owner is interested in talking with us, which is very promising. And I believe the owner is in talks already with the developers, so we're hoping to leverage that and to be able to gain the knowledge that the developers already put forth on this property. Next slide. So this is the backup plan. This is a reasonably okay site, but there are some downsides to it. This is 9600 Brown Street. It's municipally owned. It is just a bit tight is the problem with it. So it does require that 2-story healthcare center, which is a little less efficient, and it does break it up the spaces, which makes it a little bit harder for patients to move around. It's currently zoned as institutional, so this one would have to be rezoned as well. And we're looking for also a mixed use potentially for this one, or MX zoning. This one's within downtown core and it's empty, so it just requires a new build. The challenges with this one possibly will be with partnerships, but that might be an opportunity as well in funding a new build on this site. We can go to the next one. So we've done just on this site, this is still Brown Street, 9600 Brown Street. We've done 3 different options to kind of determine the viability in terms of laying that program out on the site and seeing how it works with the parking. And so in option 1, it's really an assessment. We've got the square footage that we need in purple there in the building, and then we've got the parking. Now in option 1, we don't have quite enough parking to meet the zoning bylaw. We have 22 shown, but 30 is required, and you can see that the parking is very tight in all 3 options actually. Option 2 is 2-story as well, but this one is satisfying that parking requirement. I'm sorry, that's a typo. 30 stalls are provided and 30 are required. And then in option 3, to give an idea and to offset some of the costs, we're looking for potential partnerships or other leasable space that we can leverage for the new build. And option 3, we are providing the required parking at surface, and the 3rd floor is would be a tenant in that scenario, in that option. Next slide. Yeah, that's what we have for sites, and then yeah.
Thank you, Cameron. Let's go to the next portion, functional programming, and let Pod take the reins from here.
Perfect. Thank you, Gus. So we have been in discussion with the steering committee, and especially Dr. Vanderviver, who has been going back to the physicians in the area to refine the functional program. The population that we've taken from the Interior Health Local Healthcare Area Profile for Summerland currently has the population at just over 13,000. They are expecting a 3.7% growth between 2020 and 2025, which is our planning horizon. That would bring the population up to 13,812 people that would be seeking healthcare within the community. The percentage of population currently attached to a general practitioner is 70%, and we are hoping to bring that up to 100% by 2025. The average number of appointment per person per annum would remain constant at 4.27 appointments per year. Can you go to the next slide, Gus? The total number of appointments that we've seen in 2020, based on that 70% of people being attached to a general practitioner, is just under 52,000. And with the increase in population, we're expecting that to raise to just under 71,000 people or appointments per year. Currently, what we're seeing is we have just under 3,000 people from outside of that catchment area who are regularly seeing a GP within the district of Summerland. We expect that to remain constant from 2020 through to 2025. So what we've done is we've taken the number of appointments per annum and utilized a 50% utilization rate of all of the exam and treatment rooms. What that is assuming is that all of the rooms would be filled at one point in time, and half of the people in those rooms would be seeing a practitioner while the other half are waiting. Based on that, we're making the assumption right now on the utilization rate that we will require 24 exam and treatment rooms, as well as subsequent support space within the clinic. We're anticipating 20 to 22 physicians that will be required to meet the need of the community by 2025. In discussion with Dr. Vanderviver, we do believe that there is agreement amongst all of the physicians within the Summerland and the ones that they're hoping to retain in the future, that they would be willing to join one centralized health center within the Summerland. What we've been able to do is we've taken the functional program that was included within the RFP, and through a user consultation process, we've been able to refine that. We found that the total area, the net area, which is the actual usable area, not including circulation space, building envelope, and mechanical and electrical infrastructure, would total in the RFP 888.7 square meters. And we've been able to reduce that down to 694.6 square meters for a little bit of area and potentially cost savings, while still meeting the overall need of the community out till 2025. Next slide, guys. We're going to go back to the affinity diagram, and I'm going to turn it back over to Cameron.
So what we're trying to do with this affinity diagram, I'm not muted. Yeah, good. What we do with these affinity diagrams is it's really important in healthcare to establish adjacencies and to make sure that patient flow is as seamless as possible, as well as doctors, nurses, and other healthcare providers, that they are easily moving from space to space. So this is really a conceptual layout of those spaces. Each bubble represents one of the rooms or a series of rooms, typology of rooms that we are offering at the healthcare center. And sorry, you can just virtually ignore the first number is correlated to the functional program. And like I say, that the area is to scale shown on here. And then the lines that are dashed shows adjacencies. And this helps us go through the program with the steering committee and make sure that when we're developing our plan, our floor plan, that we haven't forgotten or missed any key adjacency. So we did vet this already through we did show this to the steering committee, and we so far it looks good. Also, just to mention, there's front of house and back of house, and those that are interested in that is really just a separation of a patient from doctor or a patient from other patients. So yeah, some looks good, and we're ready to kind of move forward if we don't hear anything further from the steering committee with our floor plans once we have the site.
Thank you, Cameron. And we'll just go on to potential partnerships. So as we've noted in the past, there's a partnership with a developer and how to raise, that's one way of paying for the facility. Private or municipal fundraising efforts, which we'll touch on later on in our discussion in terms of governance and how to procure the project. Government funding possibility, and what kind of procurement options are there to actually build or lease space if we can find it. We haven't been lucky enough to find any space, so we're looking at a build or a renovation at this point. And lease terms and durations, how we're going to be able to make the facility viable. So if we go to the next slide, I just got to go back here. We've been able to contact new developers as part of the process to see if we can entice them. And one was, they're both from Kelowna. One was Rise, the other one was Mission. And essentially, we've heard the same thing from not only them, but other developers as well who deal in these sorts of projects, is that their preference would be to buy the property and develop it on their own rather than going in on a partnership with another third party. So we're still in negotiations or discussions, I should say, with them to be able to narrow down what their intentions might be and if they are interested in going into the project. And as Cameron noted earlier, we discovered by I guess it was last Thursday, fairly late, when we had the steering committee meeting, that they were the owners of the retirement home property, the very sparsely populated or not very densely populated site, is that they're negotiating with a developer to develop the property. So I think that would be is a viable option now that we have that particular site as part of our focus. I guess the next question is for us is who is that developer that they're negotiating with, and see what their intentions are and see how that can dovetail into developing the health center on that particular property. And business case and governance models. And that's another key aspect of the project. And I'll let Monica take the reins here. And I'm not sure whether or not we talked about, I know we didn't talk about the other option. We talked about the first option, but Monica, if you can fill in the blanks.
Sure, thanks, Gus. And I'll be really quick on these sections. I know you're time constrained. So there are a couple of different options that we're looking at. One is based on the Ponderosa Clinic in Penticton, which is operated by the Divisions of Family Practice. So in that instance, there was an existing healthcare center that they were able to secure through lease, and the lease is through the Divisions of Family Practice, who then subsequently provide space to the physicians and allied health and other practitioners, through leasing it to them. So another option potentially is Bowen Island just opened a new community health center, or they just broke ground on it. They announced it last week. It's comparable, around 10,000 square feet in size. This is a bit higher. It does include dental services, which of course you're not contemplating. They've raised $5 million for construction and have received $1 million from the provincial government. They, like I said, just broke ground last week, and it will be operated by the Bowen Island Health Center Foundation, who did all of the fundraising for the center. Some feedback that we had from the steering committee on Thursday was that they felt it was important that the physicians are included, I guess, in the operations. So, like I said, these are just two different operating models that we can evidence. And I think there's others. One point that was raised during the steering committee was that several of the docs, I think in Victoria or Duncan, have just left a community health center because they weren't happy there. So we're going to continue to look at the different operating models. As we develop the business case, clearly we would like it to be site specific, but given that we're having some challenge finding the site, some discussion about changing to more, maybe perhaps more of a generic business plan that is based on the functional program. And then we can look at some of these operating models or funding options that maybe aren't site specific. But I think the intent is to secure a site so that we can develop a site specific business plan. Next slide.
And we've now, I guess the challenges are for us is that find a proper and viable site within the downtown core that's independent of the rec center, and that's where our biggest challenge is right now. We're still at trying to identify suitable sites and coordinate with our rec center colleagues, and we're sort of, I think we're nearing where we want to be there, but our date for community engagement hasn't changed at this point. So this is where we should be. Once, I think part of the aspect today for ourselves, I think with the rec center team, is identifying sites before we can get into site-specific design. I think that's really key. What Monica was saying, I think we'd all agree that a site-specific business plan is more useful and prudent than doing a generic one. And I think that's our challenge at this point, is to be able to move to the next stage, which is finding the right, identifying the correct site, at least one or two options, and to progress from there. And we can do that fairly quickly, but I think that the key for us is to find the right site. I know that now the discussions today with the rec center team, there is still a possibility of a location in, I think it was option B, where there would be a location of the healthcare center, but that hasn't been established yet. So I think in the absence of that at this point, we should be, I'll leave it up for discussion. This, in my opinion, might be wise to identify one or two of the independent sites to really dive into and provide a robust business case analysis and schematic design for the future health center. So, and I think that was our sort of our next steps. What do we want to do? And I think I just illuminated that what we like to hear from council today, what the appetite is for that, and hopefully we can come to give ourselves really good direction for the next little while. So with that said, I'll go to questions. Please don't be afraid to criticize or mock even, but we've got thick skin. What reactions the council has with, especially the three last sites that we spoke about, the retirement site, the interior health site, and the Brown Street site. So any questions from any of the council members?
Okay, thank you for your presentation, Gus. That's great. I have seen Councillor Carlson's hand up for some time, so we'll start with Councillor Carlson and then we'll go on to Councillor Holmes.
Mine's just brief, and it's not necessarily about the site, it's about the functional program. And I note that you've used data that suggests it's from 2020. I'm wondering if it's really from 2020, because as we know, getting a doctor's appointment in 2020 was not an easy task. And so I just want to ensure that when you're predicting 2025, it's actually based on what was happening in maybe 2018 and 2019 and not necessarily 2020 or even 2021. Because a lot has changed, I think, in terms of how and who has been able to see the doctor in the last year and a half.
Yeah, I can speak to that. Thank you, Councillor. The information that we've gathered is from 2020 documents that are provided by both the Provincial Health Service Authority and also Interior Health. The population projections do vary from the District of Summerland. I do believe that's because of the catchment area. I also believe that one of the challenges with being able to see a general practitioner is the operating hours of the clinics that they have, and also the need from people who are seeking healthcare within the District of Summerland who are outside of that catchment area. What we're hearing is that they do have residents from Penticton, the surrounding area, Oliver, and also as far as Kamloops, who are also seeking healthcare within the District of Summerland. I'm not too sure why that is, but I do believe that the information that has been provided is accurate through the health authorities. I think it does exemplify the need for greater healthcare within the District of Summerland, though, because it is very difficult to have a regular general practitioner for the people within the community.
Thank you. I just to add a little bit more, there were a few months in 2020 where you could not book a doctor's appointment because of COVID. And so I'm just concerned that, I know you took the data from there, I'm just concerned that perhaps it's inaccurate, but if it's from earlier and it's compiled from Interior Health, I would just have to assume that it's correct information. Thank you.
I hope that is, as it is what we're basing the functional program off of. The other thing that I should mention is within the functional program, and the exam and treatment rooms. One of the things that we are looking at is providing telehealth to allow the residents of Summerland to get specialized care from outside of that area, and being able to do that and also provide healthcare for people who aren't able, whether it's due to COVID or being non-ambulatory, to get access to healthcare via digital and electronic means.
Okay, Councillor Holmes. Councillor Barkle, did you have a question? Yeah, okay, Councillor Holmes and then Councillor Barkle.
Okay, just, you have a couple, I guess, just related to what Councillor Carlson was saying. Of the 70% of people who are attached to a physician in Summerland, are those, is that 70% attached to a doctor in Summerland, or does it include people who have to leave the community to see a doctor?
For specialized care, they would still have to go beyond the district of Summerland. I believe those are for residents who are attached to a physician within Summerland. According to the data, 84% of the population within Summerland are attached to a clinic. However, it's also possible that due to COVID, what we're finding is that people aren't seeing a general practitioner as often as they would like. So that 4.27 appointments per person per annum could also be skewed. That may be based on the availability of them to reach a general practitioner, even though they are attempting to go more.
Okay. And my original question was, so in respect to the suitable sites and the different sites and wanting to hear from council, I guess there'll be different costs for each site. And so it's hard for me, I think, to make a comment on a preference of one site or another without having an idea of what the cost difference are for these different sites.
Thank you for that. I think at this point, the ideal thing would be to see what the ideal site would be and see if that fits into a costing. But again, we want to narrow it down so that we can present some options and with costs at the end. So really what we're looking for is some sort of, I guess, acknowledgement that the sites that we are identifying here, we may whittle it down to two rather than three that we could explore. And of course, depending on what the rec center team, we may have to include that as well. But those are a lot of options. Our preference would be two options, frankly, to be able to do a really robust planning and cost exercise for council to review. So I guess it's not an easy predicament, but I think we need to, I guess, narrow it down so we're able to make our date, which I think may be in jeopardy, frankly, because of our difficulty in identifying sites. So that's the I guess harsh reality of it. But I think my preference would be to do, rather than trying to meet the December 21st deadline, if we have to push it back a few weeks, I think that's more prudent to do a proper exercise rather than rushing through to just make the deadline. So that would be my 2 cents worth of just in terms of pragmatic progress. So
the other thing that we should speak to is we are planning on doing order of magnitude costing on each of the sites, which would be a very high level. What we're hoping is on the Archibald site, if a developer is involved, that they would develop the site and the base building, and that the cost that the District of Summerland would see would be for a tenant improvement. So you would basically have a shed space on a main level, and we would assign a cost to that to fit out that space to accommodate the need. In which case, what would wind up happening is the clinic would wind up spending a monthly fee for triple nets for lease in order to develop that site. In regards to the other two sites, because they would be a new build or an addition, we would have additional costs attached for the base building, parking, and site servicing. Recent developments will hopefully put us in touch with the developer on the Archibald site, and also give a little bit of input in terms of the site on Pleasant Valley Way, which is currently the RV parking. If we can team forces with a developer or a third party to develop that third site, they may be interested in developing the site and allowing us to enter into a leasehold improvement. So I think our next step would be to identify those developers, potential partnership opportunities, and then put together very high level order of magnitude costing, because we know a tenant improvement will be a lot more economically viable in terms of the capital cost outlay at the inception of the project than it would be to build a new facility.
Just before I go to Councillor Barkwell, just for clarification, the Archibald site is the Dixon site?
Sorry, the Dixon site.
And the RV parking one is the brown one?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Barkwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess what I have is some comments to throw to council for their opinions on, but it seems to me that the two things we hear the most about these days are lack of housing and increasing density. So any new building that we do in the downtown core area, such as Brown Street or the Legion Village, is not the Dixon site, the Legion Village? Yeah, should be 4 stories. And it seems to me that additional housing on the upper stories could help carry the cost of the facility on the ground floor for the the medical facility. So I really think that should be our priority in any plans that are presented. But does council share this same thought?
Thank you, Councillor Barkwell. Councillor Van Elfen, do you want to respond first on sharing your thought on?
I excuse me, Madam Mayor, thank you. I agree wholeheartedly with Councillor Barkwell, but I'd like to go to the Atkinson site, the one that would be owned by Interior Health, correct?
Correct.
So the land basically is free if it's from Interior Health. And my second question would be then, with a medical facility, and then we have the labs and x-ray capabilities right next door, are you looking at the west portion of the property or the north portion of that property for a development site?
Thanks, Councillor. I can answer that one. It would be on the north side that looks most promising. There's significant area to the north of the existing building, and the existing building would not be encumbered too greatly. I was surprised at the lack of windows on that area. So in addition to that area, I think it would not be that upsetting to Interior Health. I think it's viable in that sense. Yeah.
Okay, then further then, being that it is Interior Health's land, and maybe some potential partnership there, and also an affordable housing model on second, third, or fourth floor, might be something we could talk about, maybe with BC Housing or whoever, but I think Interior Health is well aware of housing situation, and it just might be worth a conversation. Thank you.
Thanks. We'll take that recommendation and we will bring it up with Interior Health, see if there's any interest in that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, I just want to canvass council on what Councillor Barkwell said a moment ago, and that is, our stated desire to build up in the downtown core area to accommodate more housing, preferably affordable housing, but it is what it is. Is there a general consensus about that? I mean, that works with both what Councillor Van Elfen has just said and what Councillor Barkwell has stated. General consensus? Yes? Did you want to speak to that, Councillor Holmes?
Certainly in principle, I think we need to, I mean, this is the reason we're doing a downtown neighborhood plan is to figure out exactly, where to go up and where to stay lower and all that kind of stuff. So just haphazardly putting, higher buildings dotted around the place might not be necessarily be the way to go, but certainly in principle, I think I can support that.
Okay. Councillor Patton and Councillor Trainer, did you have any questions? I have a few, but some of them are getting checked off as the other councillors speak. So please go ahead if you have a question. Okay, I'll go back to you, Councillor Carlson.
Thank you. So one of the things I note is that the only site we have any control over or really know what could or could not go there is Brown Street, because the district does own that. And I think that's valuable to think about. Perhaps that's why a concept of what it might look like has actually come forward on those sites. I really like the option or the idea of putting all of the health services together at the healthcare center, the former hospital in Summerland. And I guess I'm wondering how, when we talk about that, how long would that process take? I think I heard that we don't even know who to talk to at Interior Health to move something like that forward. So I'm just wondering, where would that even be something you can work on at this stage?
Thanks, Councillor. I can answer that one. So yes, it just became, to be honest with you guys, we did present a site that was adjacent to the healthcare center at the very beginning, and we heard strong opposition from the steering committee that it would be unviable because it's not in the downtown core. So we did rule it out, and to be honest, we just recently, after exhausting the downtown core, looked at it. So even though those discussions have not taken place, I don't think that's a bad moment at this time. It's just that we have only recently started looking at it. Typically, when we're in discussion with Interior Health, we do get responses quickly with them. So I don't think that it's, I don't think there's any forecast for this not being viable or taking too long to get answers, but I am hopeful. I'm sorry, hope that answers.
That's helpful. Thank you very much. I know it's important that we densify and we do increase the number of people living downtown and the number of services, but it's also important to recognize that I think the majority of Summerland citizens still live outside of the downtown core. And so, going forward, obviously we're working towards putting more people towards the center, but for now and for the foreseeable future, I don't see it really being that big a deal. People go to the lab, and it's one of the first things that when transit came to Summerland, you could get dropped off downtown or at the health center. And I think that really we should be seriously considering that. And if the folks who run the Legion Village are interested and seriously interested in something like this, then they should very quickly start to talk to you about that, because I would hate to suggest we should go that way, but then be delayed through that process as well. So I think holding on to what we can control, knowing that Interior Health will be quick to respond, I would put forward that we talk about those two first. And if another option comes forward through the Legion Village, then we should see if it might be something we can add in later to the conversation.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Before I go to you, Councillor Barkwell, I have a couple of things that follow up with what Councillor Carlson just said. When you're talking about the potential up at Atkinson Avenue, so by the health center, the new building would be on the green space. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and my next question is related to that as well, and that has to do with the size that's available up there, and I couldn't find it in the document anywhere, but I'm sure it's here. I just haven't been able to find it. And can you tell us what the square footage is that's available up there for a new build?
In all honesty, I can't speak to the available square footage, but I do believe that there is enough green space that we could accommodate a 1 or a 2-story building on that site and still be within the allowable lot coverage.
Okay, and so I know from the presentation and from reading the information that's been provided to us that I guess it's the Division of Family Practice has decreased the amount of square footage that they need down to 7477. So the reason I was asking that question is that neither of the other two options meet that 7477 in square footage. Is there a consideration that it might go to, well, I know that the Brown Street had to anyways, but that the Dixon one might go to second story?
The Dixon may go to second story, but we haven't spoken to the developer yet. However, I do believe that they should be able to accommodate it with densification on the site to a 1-story retail commercial office space. It is possible, though, that we could occupy a second floor as well, depending on what the developer intends to do with the site. So that will be our next step, is to enter into a discussion with the current owner and the developer that they're speaking to determine how much area is available within a building and if they've gotten that far yet.
Okay, thank you. And then my next question has to do with square footage as well. The square footage, does that include the parking spots that are required?
No, it doesn't. It's solely the occupied area within the building. And there is a caveat on that area as well. The functional program and the area that we've included is based on a single story. If we did go to a second story, that area would increase slightly to allow for elevator access and also exit stairs from the building. So that is the net area, which is the usable area measured basically from the wall to wall or partition to partition. There are grossing factors that will be applied to that as well to allow for any mechanical or electrical. And that is something that we'll work through as we get into the concept design.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to Councillor Carlson for bringing up the BC Transit stop there, because I think that's an important thing to recognize when we're talking about potentially moving it out of right in the downtown core. There is access through BC Transit and the Handy Dart. So those are all of the questions that I had. Oh, just one other question, and this has to do with the potential partnerships and the example that you gave of the Bowen Island Foundation, Health Foundation.
Yes.
Is that equivalent to, or do you know if that's equivalent to the South Okanagan Medical Foundation? Is that the same kind of entity, I guess?
I can take an attempt at a response. I don't know if it is or not, but that's certainly something we can take away and find out. I think the difference might be that the Bowen Island Health Care Foundation was probably set up to develop the healthcare facility on Bowen, and the South Okanagan Foundation is probably more broadly.
Yes.
It probably is more like a funder to fund multiple sites. So also probably the South Okanagan Foundation probably doesn't operate a specific facility, whereas on Bowen Island, they would be operating the facility and then having the sublease. So there would be, they're doing the health center, they're doing dental space. They have some space for Life Labs and Vancouver Coastal as well. So it's really intended to be kind of a multidisciplinary health center, if you will, which I think is the intent here, minus the dental services. But I think there are some differences between them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Megan. Councillor Barkwell.
Thank you. First, a comment. When I was sort of the mindset that this should be downtown too, but started thinking deeper, and then Councillor Carlson raised it. You get in your car and you're going to go somewhere, and it's a little difference between driving to the health center or downtown if you're going for an appointment. And there may be advantages of having things centralized there. So I'm pretty enthusiastic about the health center location. If there's the space, when I look at it, it doesn't appear to be, but I'll have to take your word for it. I know that parking was always difficult when I went there to the Andrews Pavilion. But that being said, you know, I trust that you can work it all out and determine the feasibility. The question is the $5 million that Bowen Island raised. Where did they raise that from? Was that like donations, or was it government funding, or do you have any information on that?
Eric can answer that as well. I believe it was through fundraising, through donations from individuals, probably mostly living on Bowen. And they did also secure the $1 million from the provincial government as part of their primary care strategy. So I have requested the business plan documents from the Bowen Island Health Center, just so we can take a look at it. I think it possibly could be a comparable, but I'd like to look at their operating model and then how they did their fundraising. But I believe it was from individual donations.
Okay, you good, Councillor Barkwell? All right, Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, I just wanted to agree that I agree the health center, the Brown Street, and the Legion Village are kind of the three ones that are worth pursuing. And also in respect to community engagement, I'm not really too bothered that it's not done in tandem with the rec center, and it would be useful actually knowing ahead of time that if out of the community engagement if the rec center, if it's not possible to have it combined with that, it'd be good to know, as we continue to look at these other sites. So it'd be good to know if it was on or off the table.
From our perspective as well.
So earlier on, at least I had written this down, you were hoping that we could look at moving forward with 2 options, so you can do the more work that you need to do before public consultation. Is that still what you're looking for?
Ideally, if direction can be given, perhaps not today, but at least this week, I think that would be, from our perspective, I think that would be very helpful for us to be able to move ahead.
And just one other question is, which one was it? I can't remember if it was option 1 or option 2 for the strategies that we had presented earlier today. Does that bring that up to 4?
That would bring it up to 4.
Okay.
So that would be a lot to be able to do 4 options. Yeah. And don't forget, as architects, we don't do, if we have one site, we usually do 2 or 3 options per site. So we're trying to narrow it down so that our work doesn't hugely expand, and there's really no time to do that, because that would take an immense amount of time to do, like 1 or 2 options for each of the 4 sites. I mean, that would be going back to what the rec center team had at the beginning. So we'd be 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So it would be ideal to, like I said, narrow it down so that I think we have a much clearer direction to be able to move ahead.
Okay, I understand. Lori.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think what might be helpful as well, Gus, and correct me if I'm wrong, some of these options might not be viable. We don't have that information yet. So
Mhm.
as far as interior health, they may say, no, you can't build anything on this property. So
Yeah.
that's going to rule out that option. We may
Yeah.
hear from the developer or the seniors housing complex on
Yeah.
Dixon that, you know what, they're going down a different path and they're not interested. So perhaps it would be of benefit to get kind of a priority list from council. And then if one moves
Yeah.
because it's not possible, we go to the next on the list.
That's actually a good strategy, Lori. Thank you for that.
Okay, council, so we have 4.
And I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, there is actually a 5th site that may be an option, and we're just waiting to hear back from. And it's not in the presentation because we're still waiting for a response from the board. But what was previously called the Seniors Drop-In Center, which is now called the Summerland Community Center, has a very old building. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. So we've reached out to them as well, and we're waiting for feedback back from them if they would be interested in discussions in potentially a new build on their property and partnership and shared use and what that could look like. So they have a board meeting on tonight, the 12th, so we'll hear back from them. So that could be another possible location.
Okay. So I'm getting a little, I'm wondering if, what council would feel about accepting this report for information today, receiving it for information today, and then sometime this week, maybe when we have more, I mean, it may be as early as Wednesday or Thursday, when we have more on the potential for these 5 actually existing for us to be as options for the site, maybe we could reconvene, even if it was just a short meeting, just to put things in order at that time. Would that be, what does council feel about that? Councillor Holmes.
Yes, thank you. I agree, Madam Mayor. I don't think I personally don't feel like I'm ready to make whittle it down to 2 based on the 4. And now we hear 5 potential. Really, every single one is a different model, and it's a different land ownership model. And so it's really hard to decide. I mean, you can decide what location. They're all good, as if you ask me, in terms of the location. So, but the decision where we have to make the decision is what kind of the business model and the ownership model and all that stuff. And each one of those locations will have a bearing on that. So that's where I struggle with in terms of, I don't know how you make a decision right now. Based on that, and you know, I go back to what I asked in the beginning. You know, you say what's the ideal site? Well, the ideal site is one that's most cost effective, and we don't really know that yet, just by looking at these 4 sites. So.
Okay, comments from other councillors. Councillor Van Alphen.
Thank you. Question through to Cameron. So like, let's say it's a question for interior health. Is there a possibility also of an independent contractor going in there, building the building, charging it back to the doctors or the Division of Family Practice at a triple net rate? You know, and now the senior center equation is on the table possibly after their board meeting tonight. And that's another one. You know, is there a private contractor goes in, builds the facility, charges the doctors and Division of Family Practice triple net, and supplies square footage for the seniors drop-in people. And the same as the Dixon? Same thing, like, do they build a multiple story building, supply 1 floor for the Legion members that are housed there today? Yeah, like there's so many different questions that, you know, I like the concept, like, you know, someone else is supplying the land, someone else is building the building, they're collecting triple net, and we're facilitating this, basically. So anyways, there's a lot of questions.
Good.
Thank
So,
you.
so how do you feel about just delaying this? Yes, just
Yes, please.
receiving today?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Carlson, same thing. Councillor Barkwell, your thoughts? Yeah. Councillor Trainer and Councillor Patton.
I agree with you, Madam Mayor, or with council.
Thank you. And we've lost Councillor Trainer. I guess it's baby time.
Yep.
Okay, so is that all? That's all we need? Yeah. So could I, oh, did you have something to add, Lori?
Just a point of clarification. So would it be beneficial for us to come back at the next council meeting with these potential 5 options with a little bit more information and then having another discussion at that time?
Yes?
We'll aim for the next one, and I'll talk to the consulting team, and we'll see if we can make that happen for the next one. But I guess before we go for public input, we'll.
Oh, yes, before public input. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
And, 13 days, that will give 13 days more to hear back from potential. Okay, so Councillor Patton, you heard that because you'll be chairing the next meeting, so good luck with that. You'll do great.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm glad I have your support.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay,
So-
so could I ask someone to bring forward the recommendation to receive this for information? Councillor Van Alphen, thank you, and Councillor Holmes has seconded. All in favor? Excellent, and adjourn the committee of the whole. Thank you. All in favor?
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Excellent. And my apologies again for delaying the meeting by not being here on time. 12:30, whole hour.
Okay.
Thank you so much for
Okay.
hanging in there with us and for these great presentations. Gives us lots to think about.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you,
Thank you,
Council.
Madam Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye now.